When you talk about super satisfying sci-fi horror third-person shooters, it don't get much better than Dead Space. EA's Visceral Games team kind of came out of nowhere a couple of years ago, with the game so good that it put all those petty criticisms of Resident Evil in space to rest pretty quickly. Now Visceral is back with a sequel that wisely sticks close to the first game's formula and offers another tense action experience that's arguably better than the first one. It's the kind of game that demands a dark room, a giant television, and some big goddamn speakers. Of course, the game thrusts you back into the role of valiant space engineer Isaac Clarke, 3 years after he alone survived the outbreak of hideous necromorphs aboard the mining ship USG Ishimura and destroyed the weird artifact that created them. Now Isaac is on Titan Station, a massive base built right into the remnants of one of Saturn's moons, and he's dealing with, what else, another crippling necromorph infection that's pretty much gutted that station and killed everyone on board. If you remember, Isaac isn't some well-trained super soldier specially equipped to fight hideous monsters. He's just a guy with a mundane industrial job to do who got sucked into some really horrific events against his will.
Calm down. I'll cut you out of there. Is that a plasma cutter?
But Dead Space 2 doesn't just conveniently assume that Isaac was just reassigned to another mining station that happened to get overrun with necromorphs again. On the contrary, some sinister things have actually been going on behind the scenes in the 3 years since that first game. And at the beginning of this game, neither you nor Isaac really knows exactly what's been happening. Your pursuit of the truth of this new outbreak and the new information you discover piece by piece really propels you through the storyline and sets up some interesting mythology that kind of made me wish there was already a Dead Space 3 that I could dive right into.
Why should I trust you?
Because I'm not the one shooting at you.
Fuck.
Anyway, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Dead Space 2 is here right now, and the game's setting is one of its greatest strengths. That first game was set almost entirely on a pretty drab industrial mining ship that didn't really give you a lot of variety from one deck to the next. But Titan Station, known to its residents as the Sprawl, is actually a fully functioning city complete with all kinds of civilian residential areas and stuff like that. So you end up fighting your way through some pretty unexpected places, like a unitologist church complex, an apartment high-rise, even a grade school and a daycare. The game really pulls no punches just because innocent bystanders are involved either. There is some seriously messed up stuff that goes on in a lot of these areas. Now, there was nothing terribly original about any of the components in the original Dead Space. You had sci-fi horror, third-person shooting, audio logs, flashlight. It's all stuff we've seen 1,000 times before. The game was great simply because Visceral just expertly combined all those elements into a whole that was a damn lot of fun to play. And it's really for the best that the core shooting mechanics, controls, and weapons are basically unchanged in Dead Space 2. You do get a few new enemy types to shoot at, but that first game was already so good that if you just told me, hey, they made more Dead Space, I would have been totally fine with that. This game is all about best-in-class shooting and larger-than-life action set pieces, and it hits both of those nails right on the head. Now, as a huge fan of the first Dead Space, a few improvements here specifically stood out to me in the sequel. The sequences that take place in zero gravity and sometimes in a vacuum are still really eerie and evocative, but Isaac's new suit is now equipped with little thrusters that actually let you kind of freely fly around in zero-G instead of having to just kind of launch yourself in straight lines from one surface to another. The flow of the storyline is a lot smoother as well. If you remember in the first game, each chapter was punctuated by this kind of contrived train ride from one deck of the ship to the next. But in Dead Space 2, the new chapters unfold a lot more fluidly as you kind of move into the new areas. Also, you see Isaac's face now, and he actually speaks to the characters he encounters. He's no longer a silent protagonist, and while he's kind of written as just a boilerplate, beleaguered but determined hero without a whole lot of depth, that still does a pretty good job of connecting you to the storyline and really making you care about the plight of all the characters. EA also saw fit to include multiplayer in Dead Space 2, and even if that multiplayer had been terrible, it wouldn't detract from the excellent single-player experience one bit. But it turns out the multiplayer ain't actually half bad, although it's pretty similar to Left 4 Dead. It's a 4-on-4 mode where the humans try to complete a series of objectives while the necromorph side tries to stop them. The monster classes are about as sturdy as a paper bag, but they can respawn rapidly and crawl out of any nearby ventilation duct, so the multiplayer basically boils down to kind of a basic war of attrition between both sides. There's a Call of Duty style leveling system here that gives you a pretty decent carrot to chase after, and while I don't really think the multiplayer is going to keep people coming back like something like Black Ops does, it's probably good for another week or two of online amusement.
30 seconds. 30.
That's assuming you aren't still busy with Dead Space 2's excellent single-player campaign after you finish it the first time. Unlike in the first game, the designers wisely let you carry your gear and upgrades over into the higher difficulties. And there are some ludicrous difficulty modes in here, so you may actually need 2 or 3 playthroughs to really fully prepare for them. There aren't a lot of games out there that I enjoy so much I would actually play through them 3 times, but it says a lot about Dead Space 2 that it just happens to be one of them.